I show my affection through rude, demeaning comments.
That's fine.
If I wasn't doing that, she wouldn't know I liked her.
It's true. He's an equal opportunity offender.
Come on, PJ.
I'm already rolling. That's how it's good. That's how this is going to open.
No. Hello, everybody. Are we really rolling?
We really are rolling. Yeah.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for more Law Light, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry, FWHlegal.com. We are situated today at the high-rise white brick edifice at 530 Frederick Street. There's a whole bunch of us in the room, and that's because last week, John and you, PJ, I think had one of the best podcasts we've had in a long time. I'm not going to, and I really, John is here. John, you did a great job, and so good that I think about once a month, just to free me up a little, we're going to send John into the podcast. You did a good job, man.
Well, thank you. I think you just want to go fishing more often.
I know. I don't want. Well, it was a good trip, and then what I wanted to accomplish, I did, and that was spend time with family. The fishing part of it, after about the first day, was enough. Okay, I like to fish, and we caught fish. I mean, more than they accounted for in the Bible. But I caught a lot of fish. And
I was going to say, with the amount of fish that you told me, I don't know how you had time to spend time with family outside of just fishing.
We spent it together, fishing on a boat, or cleaning fish, or cleaning boats, or eating fish.
Okay, you said you caught over 700 fish.
Yes, we did.
Isn't there a limit?
There is. Yeah, so there's a limit per person per day, 50. So, and
that's almost like no limit at all.
And that is like one type of fish. The other type of fish, there are limits, but it's hard to catch. The walleye, you have to have over 21 inches. And we caught a lot of walleye. We had to throw back because they're not 21 inches. The perch, man, they have to be over 8 inches. And like every perch we caught was over 8 inches.
Right.
So,
Kendall, you're in college. You do the math. And we'll figure out if what he did was legal or not.
Yes.
I'm a business major, so I can't do math.
Well, you better be able to do math.
You can't do math?
And by the way, Kendall White is here after completing her first.
You had to remember your last name.
It's been a long day. Kendall White from our firm is back for the summer, interning once again. It took a little bit more coaxing to get her back. She was going to take a job at a golf course or something like that. Kendall is here today with John Bennett, and we'll get around to why they're both here, but welcome home. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you. You're a wonderful person to have around. You bring a smile to the workplace, and you keep these yahoos in line.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Anyhow, what was I saying before that? Oh, fishing.
Yes.
So, wait, you said something, Kendall. You've changed your major. Congratulations on finally, yeah, you did. You changed your major.
Did you change your major?
I have not changed my.
You were going to be some kind of whack-a-moo communications.
I have not changed my major. Either
I
of them.
I
have two majors.
Major.
Well, yeah. I'm an integrated strategic communications and marketing.
Oh, I thought you dropped that silly
double major. So one of my majors is in the business school.
Okay, let's go back to the other one.
Okay.
So your fallback is business?
No,
they're not necessarily a fallback. They both tie really well together.
I went to community college, so
it
obviously
sounds like
I don't know.
You just picked the thing with the longest name.
I know.
You want to know who picked my majors out? That'd be Travis Leanne Holtry, actually. That would be him. He helped me.
What is the name of it again? But I'm going to be honest. Say it again.
It's Integrated Strategic Communications.
Integrated. When she told me that one, I was like,
listen, he is faking. He is lying to your face.
I was like, what is that even? And she couldn't explain it.
Him and Davin Shaw both helped select my degree programs to what they believed best would prepare me for a future in law. Now, Integrated Strategic Communications is a really great major. It's basically like corporate communication.
That's what I had.
That's what it's called. It's the same thing.
You'll notice she keeps looking at me because I support her decision.
Thank you.
Of course you do.
One in a million.
And I'm just going to throw this out here. you said that she didn't even know what it means, but you don't have to. That's why you're going to college for it, as long as you know what it means
I did
when
not
you graduate.
beforehand. Now,
Right.
however, a year later, I definitely know
So
what it means.
she learned what her major means.
Right.
Major
That's what's
accomplishment.
important. That's
wow.
That's what's
I bet
important.
your parents are proud of you for spending that $40,000.
It's not 40 also.
It's 140.
Like 3 million.
Is it really?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
Like I said, I went to community college, so
Okay.
Did you stop the conversation so your
did.
stomach could burp into the
one
microphone?
that he brought up. The one that he started.
I'm finished with it. I've heard enough.
Okay.
I've heard enough.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome back, Kendall.
Thank you.
All right. So
John, also welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. How was the food at Dee's Diner?
I really liked it. I mean,
Did
the
you have to eat
portions
it with a
were
fork?
massive. Yes, I mean, literally, the sandwich would not close on itself.
Right. I was picturing it while you were describing it. What'd you have?
What did I have?
Did you get the salad?
No.
You had the club.
Yeah.
The ham
I
and
got the
cheese
ham
club.
and cheese club.
Oh, there you
It
go.
was delicious.
Delicious. Oh gosh, isn't that cute? All right. Well,
But yeah,
I'm
no, it
back.
was really good.
It's good to be back in the office. It's been a crazy week. Mediation, depositions. We got some news this week that Bart Darrell is leaving the firm.
Yep.
And he is going to be going to work for.
He's gonna teach pole dancing classes in Bowling Green.
He's going to go teach integrated creative communications or something like that.
And he's doing pole dancing classes on the side.
So
it's aerobics, just for anybody out there who's not familiar.
So by the time that this podcast is edited and published, it'll be public knowledge. So we need to make sure it goes out tomorrow afternoon after this.
Right.
So Bart is.
You can close your mouth.
Bart is going to work for Owensboro Health as a vice president. And it was an opportunity for him. There's just no way he could pass it up. It's right. It's because of some of the new legislation where the hospitals work with the colleges of Kentucky, both private and public, with some new funding that's coming to help increase the number of nurses we have and also other medical professionals. So it's a way where hospitals can help meet that educational need for students, even all the way into high school. You can leave high school with a degree, an associate's degree in nursing now with this new program. The goal is to, over the next 10 years, to somehow infuse, I think, 800 to 1,000 new nurses into the system, because we have such a shortage. The hospital has asked Bart to be the vice president that's in charge of that. I don't know all the ins and outs, but with his experience at Kentucky Wesleyan and the contacts that he has and the personality that he has, as Bart and I are very close friends. There was no way in the world I could look him in the eye and say, hey, I want to be selfish, stay here.
Right.
I mean, I wanted to, but if the shoe was on the other foot and I was given some opportunity to be an athletic director like my dream school, I'm sure Bart would look at me and say, go pursue your dream or go do what you want to do. So we're upset about it. Like I said, there'll be a video that comes out tomorrow where I kind of just address it briefly. He has made everybody here better at what they do. He has certainly helped us all. He always helped bring energy to the room, and so he'll be sorely missed. We wish him the best, and we appreciate the 2 years he gave us.
Yep. And I noticed that you did leave out the part about it just being straight up a better job opportunity than Foreman Watson Holtry.
Yeah, a lot more money.
Kendall's still having a hard time processing.
I am
this
depressed now.
information.
Thank you.
Well, you could still go visit him at the hospital every time you get sick.
I will probably have to do that.
Yep. Unless it's something.
That is very sad to me.
He did tell me that, one of the big factors in the decision, he had gotten used to having Kendall around a lot, and then when she left for college, she wasn't here as much.
Right.
And so if she would have stayed home for school and we all saw her a little bit more around here, that it probably would have kept him here.
Yeah. Sorry, Tina, you're no Kendall.
Yeah, Tina's upset too. But hey, that's the other thing. We are keeping Tina as an administrative assistant.
Just in case you were worried, Tina, your job is safe.
No, she knows. We've talked to her. In fact, when I found out, the very first question I asked was, hey, we're taking care of Tina. That's because she was hired for Bart. So I mean, if Bart disappears, you're like, well, what about my job? We made sure to let her know that she's done a great job and she's a wonderful person. She's a good Christian lady, very loyal, hardworking, and so we're going to find some areas for her to work with land title and with the firm.
Oh,
so,
cool.
We're take care of her.
Well, the upside is, Tina, your job's about to get real easy for the next month or so.
PJ, you're just, we need to do these in the afternoon more often. You have a little bit
I'm
more.
having an on day.
You are?
Yeah. Yesterday was an off day, but today I feel like I'm having an on day.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room, and that is in the last episode of Law Light, you and John, whether it was just a big tease or whether or not there's some substance to this, did you listen to the last podcast?
I've heard a lot about it.
No, I did not. My name is Kendall.
The thing is, I
listen to your podcast.
Have you listened to any episodes?
I do. No, I seriously do listen to
Only
it.
the ones she's been on.
I was only the ones I tag her in.
No, I have listened to them. That's why we had a conversation earlier where I said I heard that on the podcast. Do you not recall that? I recall that.
My memory's terrible.
Well, I do listen to it, but I have not listened to John's.
John?
Last week. I'm sorry.
Well, you need to.
Okay. Okay. Plain and simple.
A man of few words, but very direct.
Try it.
Yep.
Anyhow,
should.
in the last podcast, for those that have listened, man, the air conditioning just went off and got quiet in here.
It's going to kick back on any minute, though.
You should try it without headphones.
I have. It only took me a year and a half to get these.
Yeah.
I don't.
And what's funny is those are battery operated. So if the battery dies right in the middle, he's going to go back to the dark ages.
Well, I also know like half of the padding is like coming off.
It is because one of my ears is bigger than the other,
and sweatier. I think that's really the problem.
What were we talking? Oh, so in the last podcast,
we're getting to this big secret reveal. Maybe
reveal.
It's only taken 12 minutes. Oh my gosh! Did you hear my voice crack? Hey, puberty happens more than once in life.
I've got a question to ask before we get to the reveal. I have been so busy. Okay, just so I don't care if you want to laugh at me, but is there a verdict yet in the Johnny Depp trial?
I haven't seen it. If it I've been in court the last 2 days. So
okay, so no.
The
verdict.
only verdict I know of for certain is that she did poop the bed.
Okay, and she also farted on the witness stand. Did you see that?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Did she really?
Yes. Yeah.
Was that why she was blowing the coke? Allegedly?
I was going to say, is
They
that
take a couple bumps? Yeah.
Now here's the thing. I have watched I've only seen the one clip. Is there more than one where it looks like she's snorting?
I think it's the same clip, just used over and over again.
Oh, okay. I mean, it really does look like it, but I'm pretty sure she was just wiping snot from her nostril.
I don't know, but people keep asking, how did she get it in? The courts only detect metal, not narcotics.
Right.
And there's no dogs at the entrance of courthouses that I know of.
Not typically, no.
And if they are, they're probably bomb dogs, not substance dogs.
Right.
Now, I don't know much about cocaine, but could you sprinkle it on a handkerchief and then kind of like a brisket, it kind of set like...
Well, it's a white powdery substance, PJ.
Look, we've seen enough lawyer movies. We know how lawyers and their cocaine is. Okay.
Next, has there been a verdict?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, has there been any more insight? Because I'm just following up on the last podcast. There was 3 main substances to get this big reveal that you're going to reveal today. Mm-hmm. That you want to see my mouth when I find out. The second thing was you discussed the Johnny Depp trial.
Right.
Weird way of putting it.
And the third thing was you discussed the Supreme Court leak on the new opinion that's going to overturn Roe versus Wade. Right. Has there been any investigation into, or has there been any revelation as to where it came from, who it was, and are there going to be all kinds of hearings about that?
Well, not to my knowledge. I'm a terrible journalist. I'm a better lawyer than I am journalist. I have not done much follow-up work since the last podcast.
Well, we have a clerk this summer, and so what we're going to do is assign her the responsibility of, by the next podcast, letting us know some updates on these 2 stories. We want an update on the Johnny Depp trial, and okay, Kendall.
Okay.
And we also want an update on the investigation into the Supreme Court leak. Have they identified potential people who are responsible for it, and where are they taking that?
This sounds like a great task for an integrated strategic communications.
No, I was going to say. I was going to say.
Your memory is fantastic.
You're the new legal correspondent.
That we have like 4 branches in ISC, and one of them is journalism. Isn't that so fitting?
So it sounds like you're perfectly equipped to update us next week.
It sounds like I've already done a lot of some TikTok research on the Amber.
There we go.
Can TikTok and research be put in the same sentence?
But there are a lot of I've watched a lot of the video clips of her testimony. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
She's really.
I need more than that. I
know you need more, but that's a good foundation.
We are in the trial. Has the defense? Are we on the defense case? Yeah, we are on the defense case. I know that much. I think plaintiffs rested and they're on the defense case in chief. So hey, we're gonna get those updates, PJ.
We will.
Kendall.
Well, Kendall, I think the other main reason is that I've been told more than once now that of the 4 people in the room, you're the only one that can have an opinion on the Supreme Court leak.
PJ, we're not getting into the substance of the opinion, okay? We're staying away from that.
We are not getting
that. Was satire for anybody. That was satire.
PJ, I can't believe you went there.
That's why there was a woman.
Awkward silence.
It's because I'm a woman. Everything traces back to me being a girl.
You should be proud of that.
You know?
Why do you say that?
Why? I don't.
Upset about
Let's because
move on.
Okay.
Don't be sad.
Okay. Now we are down to.
I do have to say this. When Kendall came back, I asked her if her voice had gotten deeper, if she was sick, and she acted like she wasn't sick. And she goes, "Well, it's because I came back and I'm a woman." And I was like, "Well, I hope you were a woman when you left. If not, I need to know something."
Yeah, so something big happened.
You're right.
That's true.
Well, you do kind of strike me a little more womanly over there.
I thought he was going to say you're more mannish now.
I don't know.
I thought he was going to say.
I don't know what that means, but thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I'm more mature.
Okay, so there's actually 2 things.
What were you do last Thursday when you?
Well, the
recorded
first
this?
one is something I've learned since the previous episode.
Did you know about the second thing, John?
I have no idea. No.
Kendall, do you know?
I'm not even going to try to guess with PJ's brain.
Okay.
So let's do the one that nobody knows besides you.
So the first one is actually, Kendall, you do know this because I told you this morning.
I do. I just lied.
Oh, okay. You're a liar then. I guess we know what else you're learning in college.
We can't rely anything on
your
anything
news
she
to
tells
share.
us about
That's
the Johnny
right.
Depp trial or the leaks.
No, it's your news to share. Why would I share your
that's
news?
True. So the first thing is we now have listeners in Hawaii.
Hey, all right. How many? 1?
3. But that's better than, 3.
That is incredible.
Yeah, we still have. So yeah, we have none in Alaska yet.
Okay, well, let's focus on Alaska.
But Hawaii, we have listens now. We officially
Isn't that unbelievable?
We've hit Hawaii. So
you'll have to play some Hawaiian music.
We might have
I want
to
to say aloha. We should have opened with that.
Well, we
aloha,
just lost
listeners.
the 3 listeners in Hawaii that we had.
Oh, sorry.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it's Hawaiian.
We talked about that too last week, PJ. You shouldn't say things in other languages that you don't know.
I said "sacre bleu," right? Because I've always heard that. And we talked about Pepe Le Pew, and it turns out it means
suck the blue.
Suck the blue because I was saying it wrong.
There you go. That's why PJ. It's like the one
yeah.
It's when I went to Spain with my on the way to Africa one time. We went through Spain, and one of the people in our group said grassy ass
instead of gracias.
Grassy ass. I was like, oh, if you're from Kentucky, don't try to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
So anyhow,
sometimes when I go eat Mexican, I do want to try to, be like muy bueno, like that kind of a thing. But then I'm like,
I'm sure they would be the first time they've ever heard an American try to speak Spanish.
So I look at them and I go, thank you.
There you go.
I figure that's probably the more respectful.
Garners more
right
credibility. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then now this next. Do you know the next thing? And you know the next. So like.
Oh yeah. Before I say what it is, as soon as he came back from his illegal fishing trip,
right.
We still got to do the math on that. But so when he came in on Monday, he was asking me about it, and he started prying for information. And then he was like, yeah, I think I know what it is, actually.
Do.
I'm going to give you this opportunity to say...
I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, you're not going to steal my thunder.
I don't want to steal
You may be right. You may be wrong. Go ahead. Let me say this. I think I know what you think it is. You may not be entirely wrong, but you may be way wrong. So go ahead. Try to steal the thunder. And if you do, it's okay, because I'm still going to talk about it and tell the story.
I think this has to do with faith.
Okay.
I will preface this by saying if it ends up being what I think it is...
Uh-huh. Am I going to get a raise?
I did not ask anybody. When I realized that the surprise was not that a person was going to be here or that we had a guest or something, and that it was just news, and that it had to do a thought with you,
right?
Then I was like, my gut was, hey, maybe it has something to do with faith, because from day one in our relationship, it's become like a focal point of a lot of conversations.
It's beyond a friendship now; it's a relationship,
right? And like we've had a lot of.
Now you made it weird.
We've had a lot of long and meaningful conversations, not just on the podcast, but even on the podcast.
Right.
When you were going through your divorce, I brought a lot of it back to faith and with some of the advice I gave you.
Right.
So
you said, don't listen to Trina.
My gut feeling was that would have been legal advice.
I don't get that for free, I know.
You're right. Not around here, you don't. So my gut feeling was that it had something to do with that. Now, if I was guessing, then I would guess that you either made some type of an admission or confession of faith that, you know what, okay, I believe there's God, or maybe, it's beyond that. Maybe it's that you accepted Christ or something along that vein. Now, and again, I will say, if that's it, then it's great thunder to steal. If it's not it, then I'll keep praying. If it is something along those lines, I will give you my word. I did not pry into anybody else. It was a gut instinct.
Right. No, you're good. All right. So the news is Leslie and I are engaged.
How could you engage her if you're not a believer in Jesus?
Okay, that's actually not what it is.
There.
No, that's not. Wait, why does one have to go along with the other?
But the Bible says don't be unequally yoked, and I wouldn't think Leslie would do that.
You're right, actually. Travis caught you, Leslie. All right, no, that's kidding. We're not engaged.
Okay.
That's a later podcast episode. So anyway, you were actually correct.
Okay, but at all levels, I need the details. I need the...
Okay, so...
Man, this is awesome.
So this is my coming out of the closet, per se.
That took a turn.
Yeah, it did. Not that closet. The worldly closet, I guess you could say. So, and we've had a lot of conversations. But for those of you who may not have listened or heard those previous podcast episodes, for me, this has been a journey... the better part of 30 years.
Correct.
And I've been to a lot of churches. I've spoken to a lot of people about faith, about religion. I've always been fascinated with it. Watched tons of documentaries on the History Channel. I actually went to the theater and saw Passion of the Christ, which made me really mad because that has one of the most terrifying jump scares in it. And I went there to see a movie about Jesus. I didn't know I was going to have to change my underwear right in the middle of it, which I found to be very unfair. Thanks, Mel Gibson. And but to get back on track, yeah. So a little over a year ago, I went through a divorce. That whole process really started making me kind of reevaluate things. I've found that things, in some instances, have favored me, certain things, but I always looked at it as my hard work paid off, or, I never really looked at a bigger picture. I always chalked it up to coincidence. And I'm not saying that coincidences don't happen, but over the last year, a whole lot of what most people would probably consider coincidences have been taking place. And it wasn't just favorable things that happened or blessings. It was certain people being brought into my life or having conversations fairly consistent, and then the next day it being followed up, but with someone else. I started opening myself up, especially recently, I would say within the last couple of months, saying, it feels like something greater than myself is trying to reach out and say, hey, look, I'm here. And I've always said I'm the individual who, in order to believe, because I'm so analytical, God or even Jesus would have to like appear in front of me and say, hey, here I am. And obviously
did that happen?
Well, no, that's not what happened. But but here's the thing. It did. Mm-hmm. My issue is that I always, not always, but a lot of the time I would put like my own expectations on things, right? I did that with movies. I'll use that as an example. So I would go into a movie and I would say, I expect it to be this. And then I'd watch it and I'd be disappointed afterwards because it wasn't what I expected and I would say, well, this is how I would have done it. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. It's not mine, right? It's someone else's plan, mm-hmm. how they would have done it. So it's not my place to put those level of expectations. So when I got to a point where I stopped putting my own expectations on what other people were doing, their works and things like that, I started enjoying movies a lot more. So then I took that same idea and I applied it to faith. And I started saying, okay, well, let's look at what faith is. Let's get to the bottom of what it's about, right? The message. And then I started opening my mind and saying, maybe these things I'm experiencing aren't coincidence. You know, maybe it's a part of a bigger thing happening that I just don't fully understand. So let me try to understand it. And when I started doing that, it became even more apparent that it wasn't just coincidences. It was God saying, hey, I'm here. I've been here all along. You just haven't been listening. You weren't opening the door. But now that you've opened that door, here I am. So then I started listening. And it started happening more and more and more. So I started trying prayer, which I always was like, prayer doesn't work. It just comforts you. That's what it's meant for. It's meant to make you feel better, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then when you start praying, especially after opening myself up, I started praying for very specific things. When those very specific things, and I'm not talking about just one, I'm talking about multiple very specific things, begin getting answered, then it's like, well, wait a minute. Something else far more profound is happening here. And I know you don't have to go to church to find God, because I didn't, but I did make that part of my journey. So I started going, okay, well, I'm going to try going and understanding more. So then I started going to church. Well, then Leslie was like, hey, I know this guy who's more knowledgeable about it. Kenny. Right? So then I start meeting with Kenny. And ironically, I mean, he doesn't have all the answers, but that's the thing.
No man does.
Nobody does. And once again, that was me putting my own expectations when I come back and I go, well, he couldn't answer all my questions, blah, blah, blah. But that was just me using more excuses to stay further away from what was trying to be shown to me. Right. I start meeting with Kenny, and then the things he's telling me start making sense. They start applying to what's going on in my life. I've been going to church. Then I started, going to Pleasant Grove, right? Well, then I started going to Kenny's church, which is Mount Eden in Hancock County. And then I was kind of jumping back and forth between the two. Well, about a week and a half ago, Amy invited me to a revival. And now leading up to this revival, I started getting like this feeling that I didn't fully understand. And so I go to the revival that night. In the middle of the revival, I don't know if anybody here suffers from extreme anxiety, but when you have extreme anxiety, it tends to manifest itself in this feeling of surging energy or like electricity that just like shoots through your arms and your legs. Now, the anxiety is awful, like, because you feel terrible. It just emotionally drains you and that kind of thing. The only reason I'm using anxiety as an example is because those of you that have had really bad anxiety, or you suffer from bad anxiety, or medicated for it, like, you'll understand what I'm saying. So that was the sensation. So I'm in the middle of this revival, and all of a sudden I start getting this just like extreme, overpowering, electric sensation. It's in my chest. It feels like it's going through my back, and it's shooting in my arms and my legs. But here's the difference is while it has the sensations of anxiety, like the electricity shooting through your body sensation, I felt completely at peace. It felt like when I took Loratabs for the first time, only I wasn't. Look,
you would say that. You would compare your experience with God to taking Loratabs for the first time.
Look, because here's the thing. I am, like I said, I'm very over analytical about everything.
You're descriptive,
and I know, right? And I know that there are other people who are going to listen to this who were just like how I was, who are extremely frustrating because it's like they don't want to open themselves up to it. And I know people are going to listen to this and go, oh, he's finally drank the Kool-Aid. I'm trying to explain it in a way that other people like me will understand, because the problem is, and I've been told this a gazillion times, you can't explain the Holy Spirit and how it feels until it happens to you. And I would always say, well, isn't that convenient? Isn't that real convenient that you're trying to indoctrinate me into something that you can't even explain? But the reality is that when it finally happened to me, I now am on the other side of the fence. So I'm trying to talk to Logan, right? Logan's just like me. And he's doing the same thing I did, looking at me the same way I looked at you all, every other Christian in history, or every Christian I've come across, with that, well, you apparently are experiencing something, but you're interpreting it incorrectly. You know, that kind of a mindset.
Put it on you, right.
When it finally happened to me, I couldn't explain it. So with the revival, it hits me. I'm with Leslie. You know, Leslie and I have been going to church together. And it's like, I'm so badly wanting to tell her, well, it's because I didn't understand what was going on. The sensation, the peace, but surging energy. Also, there was like this weightlessness sensation. The point when you're jumping on a trampoline and you reach the furthest point you can go up, but then you start to fall back down, that feeling you get of weightless, like momentary weightlessness, that's also what it felt like. So I was just being bombarded with all this stuff. Strangely enough, as per usual, recently, we're the last ones to leave the church, which for me is saying a lot. And we go out to the car and we sat in the parking lot, and I'm like trying to explain to her what I'm feeling. And as I'm explaining to her the sensations, she's like finishing my sentences. Before I could even say it felt like I was at peace, she goes, you feel like you're at peace, right? I'm like, yes. My head was in this weird place where it felt like, she goes, weightlessness, right? And I was like, yes. Because she's understanding what I'm going through, I just like break down crying. Because I'm like, I don't know what's happening to me right now. It started going through all this, not expecting anything to happen. No.
And you never cry, PJ.
Oh, I cry at everything, but it was like I'd seen The Green Mile for the first time. I cried a lot through that movie. I'm like, no, Mr. Jingles. So I'm like sitting there bawling my eyes out. She's understanding what I'm going through, but I'm still feeling it. I'm just like, why is this happening to me? Because I didn't think in a million years, when I finally was like, all right, I'm going to open myself up to this, things would actually happen. I never thought anything would happen, and suddenly things are happening. So Shannon had given me a Bible, the NIV, and I'm going to start taking like 30 minutes a day, and just 30 minutes, and try to read it. So I'm talking to somebody, and I said, hey, because once again, it's like the whole situation. I'm talking to somebody, and faith comes up very next day. I'm like, I'm thinking about reading the Bible. Where would you start? And they said, oh, you got to start with John. Just start. Because I tried to read the Bible like before, and I started with Genesis, and it is a snooze fest. I got to page 18. I'm like, I don't care who begat who. Let's get on to the good stuff. When am I going to actually start learning something here? So I got super bored, and I never picked the Bible back up again. So until recently. And then they were like, you need to start with John. So I said, okay, I'll start with John. Well, then I flipped to like page 911, and I'm looking at it, and there's very little left of the Bible. And then there's all this stuff in the beginning. I'm thinking, I have a feeling I'm going to feel like I've missed out on something here. But I went ahead and started with John anyway. And like I said, this was on a Saturday. So I sit down, I start reading John, thinking, I'll just take 30 minutes. I probably won't even understand half the stuff it's trying to tell me, blah, blah, blah. I cannot stop reading it. I read the entire book. I spend like 2.5 hours reading the whole thing. Things that normally would not stand out to me are like jumping off the page. I'm circling things. I'm underlining things, writing questions down like that I have. Only a few people really knew what was going on with me from a faith standpoint. I hadn't talked to a lot of people, like the experiences, the circumstances, all that. So as I'm reading John, Jesus is explaining very specifically a lot of the stuff that I'm going through and answering a lot of these questions that I've always had that I never took the time to look it up for myself, which kind of made me feel like a hypocrite, because I've always been like, well, if you're going to figure it out, you got to do the research on it. You can't just sit there and listen to some preacher. You got to figure it out for yourself. I never really took the time to do that. And when I finally took the time to do it was now, and it's jumping off the page. And normally when you like read a novel, it's like you envision the characters talking to each other. Well, by the time I get to the Last Supper, It's like Jesus has turned around and is looking at me, and everything that he's saying is applying specifically and directly to me and everything that I'm feeling and experiencing. And it's like all these questions are being answered, and I have this like insane awakening. And then I just start bawling my eyes out. No surprise, right, John? And was this extremely profound moment. I mean, it was like one of several. I've never had anything speak to me the way it has. Like sometimes, you'll watch a movie and you'll get emotion, like you'll have an emotion towards it or whatever, and you're like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But this was like it had been written for me right now. Very next day we go to church, and Kenny, his sermon was about 2 Timothy, right? And it was about the Holy Spirit. Now, leading up to this, Kenny knew very little. He knew some of what I was going through, but he didn't know everything that, like, these profound moments and stuff like that. Right. Like, his whole entire sermon, it's like he had written it for me. It completely applied, once again, to everything that I just experienced the day before. So I'm sitting here and I'm going, how many more moments do I have to go through like this?
Right.
Before...
Your excuse is gone.
And at this point, there was no excuse.
Right.
And once again, I am very analytical, okay? And I get that there's going to be people who listen to this or people that I talk to moving forward who are going to go, dude, you're going through some stuff in life and it's written to be very generalized and blah, 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 blah. But it's not. It really is not. Yes, there are some very questionable things in the Bible. Even now, I have questions about certain things. I read the story in Ezekiel about the two sisters, and there's some things in there that I'm like, did you really have to word it that way? That's pretty raunchy. Think about the children. Right? But I didn't write the book, so I enjoy Stephen King, and there's some extremely questionable things in Stephen King's books, but I still enjoy them, right? And I'm not writing him a letter saying you should have done it this way.
Right.
So I'm not.
What are your movies rated, PJ?
Your mom. Anyway. So his whole sermon was like it was tailor-made for what I was experiencing.
Right.
So once again, another very direct, very specific coincidence, right? In a short span of time. So then I start looking at it and I'm like, what is the mathematical probability that I would be undergoing this journey with this many coincidences? For those who can't see, I'm doing quotes with my finger, right? Coincidences. Before I say it is not a coincidence. And up to this point, I've always believed in the supernatural. Ghosts kept the having experienced the supernatural and stuff like that, whether you believe they're demons or not, that's what kept my foot on the other side of the fence. Okay? I've always been confused by people who say, well, I believe in God, but I don't believe in ghosts. I'm like, how can you not believe in ghosts, but you believe in God? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm the flip, right? How can you believe in ghosts and not believe in God? So I'm like the other side, right, of that coin. How can it be so obvious and I still deny it? Because once again, that was the thing that always like pissed me off about certain individuals in the Bible. Because being someone who struggled with faith so much, I always felt like I should have been born in the time of Jesus, because that's what I felt like I needed. Like I needed to be the person who saw the miracles happening in order for me to go, oh, this is real. And then I would read about certain disciples that like fell away from Jesus. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Like, I'm over here struggling. You're getting the water into wine and the fish made out of stones or whatever, which doesn't happen. But you know what I'm saying? I'm like, you're getting this stuff. And I'm over here like fighting. Where's my burning bush, you moron? So now I'm finally that person, right? I'm getting all of that. And I'm either going to recognize it for what it is, or I'm going to continue to be the person that I think is stupid and should be punched in the throat.
Okay.
So instead of punching myself in the throat, I was like, I'm on board. Let's do this. At the end of his sermon, he goes, here's the deal. He goes, Kenny says, faith is a train, and it's going to one location. Even if you're struggling, but you still believe, which at that point I did believe. I acknowledged that God was real. He's like, there's a one-way train. There's only one way to get there. And he goes, you've got the ticket, and you have to get on this train. Do not let that ticket go to waste. I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then I stood up, and then that part of me that was like, are you really going to do this? And then like I got all nervous because like the church was full of people, and I'm thinking of, now none of these people really know who I am or what I have been, right? And then I started feeling like a hypocrite because I'm thinking, you still have questions, you still have things you don't understand, you're still going to question it. Do you really need to do this? Are you going to be a hypocrite? And I started worrying about what those people might think. And I look over at Leslie, and I guess she could see it on my face that like I was ready to do this, but I was still hesitating for some reason. And she said, I know you want to go up there, and you don't have to do it alone. So I'll go up there with you if you want. And I said, okay. And we went up there, and I got saved.
It's like I didn't want that to end that quick because I was enjoying the whole process of it.
Well, and then the end of June, I'm getting baptized. Or I'm sorry, beginning of June, I'm being baptized.
Beginning of June?
Yeah, I had to push it
like
back
June
because it'd be the first Sunday in June.
Where at? At Kenny's church?
Yeah, in Mount Eden. So, but yeah, it was funny because
fill the church.
I walked up to Kenny and I said, all right, dude, I've got the ticket. I'm getting on this train. Let's do this.
There you go.
And
man, that's awesome.
He kind of laughed, and then we did it, and I said the prayer, and then I start to go sit back down. And he goes, no. He goes, you can't sit down. You got to stay up here. I got to tell people about it. So he gave him he gave everybody like the Cliff Notes version.
Right.
And then and then he said a prayer, and then church was over with, and then everybody lined up.
There you go.
And there was like 100 people, and I got a lot of really great hugs.
And a lot of those people, man, you may never see them again, or if you do, but I mean, that's the beginning of the people that you'll spend eternity with, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
There was just as you told this whole thing, PJ. First of all, I mean, it's more emotional for me than my mouth dropping open. I would submit to you that God's probably been working on that a whole lot longer than even you put
I
the
agree.
coins together. I mean, one of the biggest coincidences I think is that you landed in a place where predominantly, 80 or 90% of the people here, I mean, faith is important to them.
Right.
And each one of those people has had a different journey. The consistent message to you was love, and that respect, but you walk down the hall, you have Amy, you have me, you have Kelly, you have Shannon, then John. I mean, it's just
right.
God puts you in a place, and forgive me for not knowing exactly how many years you've worked here. Is it 5?
It'll be 7 in August.
7. Okay. Well, the point I'm making is that when you really believe in who God,
at least he knows my last name.
Starks.
Kendall Off-White.
So the point I'm making is that 7 years ago, God knew what was going to happen eventually with your marriage. God knew that he was going to introduce you to Leslie. But you couldn't go from where you were to where you are with Leslie without going through a process. Okay?
Absolutely.
And so God's timing, even though we question it, and even as a believer, you're going to question God's timing a lot. There is account after account in Scripture where, people wanted things on their time, but God said, no, it's going to be a different time. You've heard me talk about the fact that Jacob wanted Rachel. You've heard me use this, I think. He wanted Rachel. He wanted to be married to her, and so he goes to Rachel's dad and says, hey, I want to marry Rachel because I'll give him to you, but you have to give me 6 years, 6.5 years of labor. And so he says, sure. And so he labors for 6.5 years working for Rachel's hand in marriage. And on the day of the wedding, this woman comes out veiled, and I guess as custom then, you didn't unveil the woman until later that night. So they go through the entire wedding, and lo and behold, when he gets private with his bride, the father who had loved him so much that he didn't want to lose him wanted another 6.5 years. And so he had switched his daughter Leah in for Rachel. And at first he was upset. He was like, oh my gosh, what have you done to me? You're a jerk, And then he realized, well, look, if it takes another 6 years, then I'll take Rachel. And so what God needed was 13 years of purification of this guy. He needed 13 years of obedience. And at the end, he gets Rachel, right?
Right. And what happened to Leah?
Well, again, Old Testament stuff, man. She died.
I was kind of you know what? I was kind of hoping you were going to say he actually ended up realizing
really
Leah
liking Leah.
Yeah, that Leah was better.
But the whole
she got the shaft.
The whole thing is that God's timing will not make sense to you, even as a believer. A lot of times, like why does a child have to suffer and die? Why can't it be?
Yeah.
But the thing you have to do is if God's timing is perfect on that, then you have to give credit to God for the timing that He put you through, and that being the people He has put in your path along the way to prepare you for arriving at that destination. It's a beautiful thing. There was no accident in that. There was no accident in the fact that you had one experience with a lot of Christian people, the way they talked to you and the way they treated you, and then you're put into a place of employment where people say, "I understand. I disagree with you, but I love you. I'm not gonna say how could you be so stupid to have that belief. I mean, goodness." And the encouragement to take from that is now that you've accepted it, his timing is gonna continue to be perfect. And if you avail yourself to the power of that Spirit that stirred you, I mean, what God can do in and through you and Leslie and all the people He puts around you is immeasurable.
Right.
I'm elated. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there when you get baptized. And I would just say to you that, a lot of times when I hear people say that they've accepted the Lord and things like that, it's not my place to go, is that real? Is that legit? But man, listening to you talk, there was no sense in me thinking, man, I don't know about this. This seems like maybe he's doing it for this purpose or this reason or something like that.
Right.
So, A, thank you for sharing it. B, man, it's awesome. There's not really any words for me to tell you. I am elated for you. And if, whatever small part of it, God let me play in that and God let others here at the office, I would say this, and some people may think I'm crazy, and sometimes the things I do say, I don't know, did I tell you about the time I prayed specifically 2 weeks ago, prayed specifically for 2 new motor vehicle cases that we hadn't had any for a while, and that morning on my walk, I said, God, we need 2 car wreck cases. We just need 2. And I came in that day, and a husband and wife had been in a wreck, and they stopped by and hired us. It's an answer to a prayer of mine. I've been praying for you a long time. I really have. And I know there's a lot of people here that have prayed for you, not just in your belief, but what you were going through with your marriage and then recently. So it's a beginning of an awesome journey for you. And we're here with you, okay?
I appreciate that. I mean, everybody, you're absolutely right. Everybody has played a role in that journey somehow, and you and I have had, I would say, some of that healthier conversations about it, because there are some Christians that I've talked to that were not going to be the ones to direct me or point me in the right direction.
Right.
And because of how aggressively they came across or whatever it was. And that stuff always did kind of, it turned me off because, I'm thinking the whole point is to be Christ-like and to be understanding. If you're sitting there and pointing fingers and enacting some kind of judgment, like that's not the right way of going about it. And that's not to say that they won't change their methods at some point, but in that time and that place, that wasn't going to bring me to God. And it directed me to go to other places to try to find the answers I was seeking.
People that were patient, right.
And the conversations I've had with John have been really healthy, with you, Amy, Kelly, Shannon. Sorry, Kendall.
Right.
Kendall
you're new to this whole thing with me, so it's okay.
Kendall doesn't let her light shine.
And the other funny thing that I've come across is like some people I've had, and I haven't publicly talked about this or anything, but I'll just go and say, because it's nothing I'm ashamed of, but like because of the way my marriage ended with Trina, I held on to a lot of anger and resentment towards her. Mm-hmm. And I won't specifically say why, but I did. And I finally got to a place within the last couple of months where I finally realized how unhealthy that was. And like I was transitioning and becoming a different person. Mm-hmm. And one day, I'm in her house and we're talking and she's upset about something. And it's like, I didn't see her as a villain anymore, but a person. And it was like all that hatred and resentment that I had held for her, I let go of. Mm-hmm. And I forgave her for the things that had happened. And it was like this incredible weight was just lifted off of me. And I've had conversations with several people over the last few weeks who are in the same kind of situation, and it's not something that you can easily describe, but you just have to be like, just the second you finally realize that you need to let that go, and you do, and you forgive that person for no matter what it is, and sometimes it's extremely difficult, but I did it, and I felt incredible,
right?
And there's other people, John knows what I'm talking about, that I'm in a situation with, where it's like maybe I'm having a hard time forgiving them of certain things. Once again, I'm human. And it's going to happen, but when I get to that point where I finally just I'm getting there, it's going to be the same kind of situation. But Trina and I are like in so much of a better place now.
Right.
That's better for the kids as well.
Sure. Absolutely.
But like she recently, like I was talking to her about my awakening, right? And she seemed really sad. And she said, I spent 20 years trying to reach you, and I just don't know why it didn't happen. And I had to be honest with her and say, because you weren't the person who was ever supposed to do that.
Right.
That's why.
Right.
There was a bigger thing happening here. And while you were a part of that, you were never going to be the person that did that. It was the same thing with my mom. When I told her, she like happy cried for 6 hours. And then she's like, I don't know why you didn't come to me sooner. She cries just like me, as it turns out. And she was like, I should have took you to church when you were younger and did this and did that. And I'm like, no. I was like, you played the role. You were the exact role you were supposed to play. You didn't do anything more than that you were, or anything less. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. And I still got there despite what you think you should or shouldn't have done, right? It still happened.
Right.
So stop worrying about that. When I started recognizing that everything I would say most things are a test. That's how I look at it now. I'm like, everything is a test to do the right thing, right? And that's how I looked at things before, but now I look at it in a more spiritual way, right? Because there's a greater purpose behind it. It's not just me saying, well, Captain America is my favorite superhero, so like, what would Steve Rogers do, right? That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm still going to make mistakes. He made mistakes. But now there's like a greater purpose behind it because I opened myself up to that, and it's been revealed to me.
And forgiveness means more.
Exactly.
Well, a couple things before we could sit here and talk forever about it, and we will. We'll have conversations.
Yep. This episode is going to be almost as long as Ben's episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, real quick. One.
Booyah, Ben.
Don't even, don't ever stop studying Scripture.
Right.
That's where you're going to grow. And also, who you put around you is going to be important, especially in the next, now over the next couple of years, the people that you put around you for accountability, just to talk to, just to bounce things off of, because there is, and I hope this rings home, there is a spiritual battle going on for your heart and for the heart of everybody. It is a supernatural battle going on for hearts.
Right.
And just because, the thing I'll remind you is that the dark angel, right, knows ultimately at the end there's defeat. But hell on earth is the best it has. Okay? And so there is a battle for the hearts of people here. And yours not going to stop being a part of that battle.
Oh, I know.
So that's what it comes back to protect and to equip. You stay in the Scripture, you stay in the Bible, and you put people around you that are of the same notion, so that you are, you are equipped and prepared, and you have godly wisdom being poured into you by outsiders. There's not an important decision that I make that I don't pray about or go to somebody and talk to, or both, that I would trust. I talk to my pastor. I talk to people that I know have a relationship with God, because they're going to at least address it the same way that I would.
Right.
So, again, beyond elated, happy. There's not really a word to explain it, but
a raise.
Oh, you did it for a raise. Okay, I'll turn. I knew there was a reason, John.
I'll get one then.
Look, I've been praying for it, so if it doesn't come true, then
all right. Yeah, I'm gonna.
John's over here. He looks like a disappointed mom right now. He's just shaking his head.
Faith because yeah. All right. It's funny to hear PJ put his spin on things like that, but that is what makes PJ
right.
Yeah.
Well, and see, and that's once again, like as I talk about this with certain people, I'm getting that look like, you're a Christian now.
But
like,
man, who
what
better?
is
Who
happening?
better? Think of the people. And I'm serious. I've got to go to something else. Okay, so I've got to wrap up my part. Y'all can sit here.
Oh, that's fine.
But
and I'll get you a little vial of my baptism water.
Oh, I'll be there. I want to know who better. Think of the people that you can talk to, PJ, about faith. That it would register totally different than if John and I tried. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah.
God has got now you've got this theater full of people, to speak your term, that John and I could talk to them all day long about our experience, or Kendall. It's not going to register, but you are going to, because of where you've come from and what your thoughts were and what you did believe compared to what you believe now, is going to equip you for being the person that God uses for somebody else. Just like we were here for you and others, Kenny, and
right.
You're now a part of who he uses. And
that's
that is extremely exciting.
Leslie said that almost verbatim like 2 nights ago. The first thing my mom said was, you need to start a Bible study with Logan to bring him to do, and I'm like, nope, it doesn't work like that. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, he thinks like I do. I said, you could never be heavy-handed with me. That's the thing. You couldn't be heavy-handed. It had to be his journey and happen in his term. It'll have to happen in his terms. That's how it happened with me. It wasn't something that happened overnight. And I understand and that's the other thing too, is like now that I'm there, I understand that fear of what's going to happen if he's not there, right? Or any of my kids or any of my family members aren't there. But the other way I also, and because like my mom was crying about like wanting to see my grandmother again and stuff like that. And I told her, I said, here's the deal. I said, you can't sit there and worry about that stuff, because when it's all said and done and we all make it over to that other side, sadness, sorrow, depression, all those are human traits, and that'll all be gone. So you're not going to be sitting around thinking, well, I'm really sad right now because Gigi's not here. You probably won't think about it at all. You'll just be happy with the people that you are seeing again,
right? And
you won't think about everybody else who isn't there.
Right.
So there's no point. You're not going to worry about it then. There's no point in worrying about it now. That was their journey, and the decisions they made determine what's going to happen to them.
Does it mean you stop praying for your kids?
Right. No.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And being there when they ask.
But I don't think that you can't force it, but you also can't sit around and worry about people who have passed because they made the decisions that they've made.
Right.
And whether or not you see them again, it's like your goal is to get there. Right.
I did tell PJ this should decrease the appointments he has in Katie's office with all of his ailments. So hopefully he's not worried about dying.
That's the other thing. I haven't really been worried about it as much as Well, I mean, I'm still worried about dying because like I don't want to burn alive.
Well, nobody.
That would suck.
Nobody does.
But
but the actual what happens after.
Right. Yeah. Like there is more of I feel better about the
Missy's
whole thing.
gonna say, why couldn't you have done this when I worked there? All right.
Well, I'll still, I can still like message her on Facebook every now and then.
I can't wait to tell Missy about this first thing I'm going to do when we finish this up. Kendall, thank you for being here. Are you happy?
Of course. I do have one thing to say. From an outside point of view, I have been gone for 5 months now. So this is my second day back. And if you'd have told me this, even back in January, I would have not believed you. Or I would have been very, 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 very surprised. So A, I'm very proud of you.
Thank
B,
you.
it's just like, it just shows like how fast things change.
Yeah.
And I keep saying that over and over again, especially being home for the summer from my first year of college. It's crazy how fast things change. And it's crazy that in such a short time frame, you've built all of this knowledge and belief. And it's just really great.
Thank you.
I
You see the positive change that can happen when you go away?
I know. No, it's a pattern.
You're supposed to be a changed man, okay? I did say it was
It's
only 6.
humor.
It was
Be
only
yourself.
like 6
Yeah.
months ago on the podcast you declared yourself agnostic, and then now we're here. So.
I was always agnostic. Not anymore.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But like on 6 episodes on the podcast, they
It's
go.
almost like me coming
totally
back
different.
has unveiled
That's true.
this.
You could look at it like
It-
this.
that-
You
I
could
think it
look
is-
at
you
it
need to
like
be
In all
that.
prepared.
seriousness, though, I do appreciate everything you said.
course.
That was a joke. That was levity.
Whatever. Okay.
We make
Go back to college.
We make no apologies for the length of this podcast. There is what we all are human and we all fall short, and I am thankful to be able to work every day with people who have loved me despite a lot of my shortcomings, and I'm excited about whatever part I play and we play here in your future, PJ, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And
No problem.
Awesome stuff. Let me know the exact date of the baptism. And
I will.
We will be prepared next week from Dee's Diner with the next episode of podcast. And until then, this has been Law Lite, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry, FWHlegal.com. Check us out, and if you need a good lawyer, make sure you find us.
Go Cats.
Oh, he always ends
Yeah, boy. Yes,
This
you better
case
keep
should
that.
never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth.